that's on.
There it is.
All right. I call this Oconee County Planning Commission meeting to order. Today is Monday, July the 6th, 2026. It is 6:06 p.m. Mr. Johnson, would you provide us with invocation?
I will. Pray with me if you will. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together today. Please guide our thoughts and words and help us make wise decisions to help and guide the future of our county for the benefit of all of our citizens. Give us the wisdom and clarity to work together to accomplish this task at hand. Please continue to watch over our first responders, linemen, healthcare workers, and all those who've dedicated themselves to the health and safety and betterment of our county and our fellow man. We thank you for all your tremendous blessings. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Adams, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Has everybody reviewed the minutes for June the 15th of 2026?
I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
I'll second the motion to approve the minutes.
All in favor of accepting the minutes as written?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Do we have any public comments? You just want to read off the names for us? All right, so
Only
we,
for agenda number 9,
okay, just agenda number 9, so no.
nothing for non-agenda items.
All right. Being as we have no public comments, I will not read about the 4 minutes per person. Commission members' comments? Hearing none. Staff comments?
Just to let everybody know, the Planning and Economic Development Committee meeting is tomorrow, so I'll be presenting the scope to them tomorrow, and it's what was approved last month with those changes that were, the amendments that y'all recommended.
Okay.
And I will also have a schedule that I will email to y'all as soon as I confirm with them the public information meetings, that they're okay with those, how they're scheduled. I'll send y'all the schedule as soon as that is done.
All right, we'll move on to item 8, discussion regarding the request for renaming a portion of Rushford Lane to Turkey Creek Way, consistent with South Carolina Code 6-29-1200 and the Oconee County Road Naming and Addressing Policy. Any public comments? Hearing none. We have the county. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. I'm terrible with names, by the way.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Nick Walton, Oconee County 911 Addressing Department. Before we get to the road renaming, I want to go over really quick our addressing policy and road naming address policy. I did not provide a copy to you, but I'll read it out to you real quick. The last section covers renaming roads of one affected party. If it's one affected party, names of which 100% of all impacted property owners agree in writing, or private driveways that access a single parcel may be changed by approval of the planning director. That's in our current policy. Now, as of 2026, we do have a new state code, SC Code 629-1200, Section C, which states that on the name being changed after reasonable opportunity for public hearing, the Planning Commission so issue its certification designating the change. We have not made this change yet in our policy, but I spoke with the county attorney, and he says, just make sure we're covered. We have all road namings come towards the Planning Commission at this time until we have time to update our own policy. That being said, we have one road naming request on the agenda. It's for it's for Rushford Lane P 749. It is affecting one property owner, Mr. Thrift. We have a justification. Applicant property owner are building a new home on designated parcel 222-148 and want to preserve their existing address and road name located on parcel 222-006, 222-054. So we have the parent parcel, and then we have the two houses cut out, which are the following parcels. To allow for the address shift, a new road name is recommended by the Coney County E911 Addressing Office. Do we have the map? Okay, we're gonna look at the Rushford location map, parcel 222006. We have Rushford Lane coming onto the property here, servicing the parent parcel and the two house cuts, all owned by the same property owner. And we're gonna look at the new proposed renaming. We're gonna the request has been made to rename the full extent of the access there and to preserve the existing road name that was there. It will be a named driveway off of the proposed Turkey Creek Way coming onto parcel 222148. The plan is for the original house address of 300 Rushford Lane be shifted to this new house cut parcel 222148, and then we're going to readdress that back house off of Turkey Creek Way. I believe the applicant is having their parents move onto the property, and they're going to be shifted further up, but to maintain that Rushford Lane address for them. After completing the road naming application with the Coney County E911 Addressing Office, the following road name was accepted pending a Coney County Planning Commission approval, Turkey Creek Way. We have no road name conflicts with any existing roads. We have the attached sign notice and agreement in signature from Harry Thrift acknowledging the wish to change Turkey Creek Way from Rushford Lane, and that we're going to have it shifted further down on the property. Do you have any questions before I read out staff recommendations?
I just have a quick recommendation, or a quick question. So this was done by the owner of the thrifts there, of that thrift property. They're the ones who initiated this?
Yes.
Perfect, okay.
And since we are having a named driveway come off of an existing, they did upgrade this proposed to a private drive standard to allow for that naming coming off of it.
That was gonna be my next question, is the main road coming in the Turkey Creek Way, is that, I'm assuming is a private
These are all
road or
private, but they
drive?
did bring it up to standard to allow for that naming.
Gotcha.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
We have two recommendations tonight to vote on. Recommendation 1, Coney County E911 Addressing Office staff recommends that the Coney County Planning Commission approve the naming of Rushford Lane, the renaming of Rushford Lane based on the following. All conditions of the renaming have been met. Number 2, the original road is being preserved as the future named driveway. Would you like to discuss that first, or would you like me to read the second recommendation?
Read the second one.
Okay. Staff recommendation number 2, Oconee County E911 Addressing Office staff recommend that the Oconee County Planning Commission set the payment of fees associated with re-signing of this proposed be set at 2.5 times cost of materials as determined by and billed by the Oconee County Roads and Bridges Department, Sign Shop Division.
Is that pricing customary with what we've done in the past?
Yes. All re-signing is a 2.5 times cost. but this is just directing it to Roads and Bridges to do so.
So you want us to recommend to accept both of them?
Yes.
Yes, he does.
So
Gonna make that motion or
Yeah, I make
You have
that
a
motion
motion.
that we do both of them.
accept those staff recommendations?
Thank you.
do we have
I'll
a
second that we accept the staff recommendations as written.
You're seconding that motion?
Yes.
All right, so Mr. Adams made the motion. Mr. Johnson second. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. One more thing I'd like to say, our addressing policy was adopted directly by council. So it's not part of our current review of everything, but we are making changes to it, and the one we discussed and a few other things. I wanted to ask, would you like me to also present those changes to you as well, or would you like me to go directly to council with those? I don't know how it was done in the past. It was done back in 2009, and so I'm not exactly sure what would be the procedure for that. Not looking for an answer, just a question and maybe something we can look into later on.
So the future policy, is that gonna come through us also?
So that is what I'm trying to figure out at this point, because it was only adopted by council. But I feel like if we have a lot of other things that we're looking at the same time, it might be good to include that as well. But this recent change that I just discussed, this just came up this week, so we haven't even had time to sit down and really talk about it.
Well, I can only speak for myself. I think the more eyes you have on a change in the policy, the better off we are. I don't have enough information to really tell you anything other than that, because this is new to me.
Well, what I'll do is I'll provide a copy of the policy, and we can get that sent out to everybody, not for next meeting, but maybe something just to look over and look at again in the future, if that's okay with you.
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walton.
All right, so let's move on to item number 9, discussion regarding chapter 26, 32, and 38, and potential amendments. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, Mr. Markovich and Mr. Popper.
If you would, come forward, state your name.
For all of you who don't know me, I'm Tom Markovich, here to speak on 26, 32, and 38. I held back and resisted speaking at the last meeting dealing with the scope for various reasons. But I'm puzzled by, while I know that the conversation was going to continue regarding all these ordinances, I mean, that was planned before 26 and 32 ever went to the council. The interesting thing is that while 26 and 32 did go to council, they only took first reading. It's never actually technically come up in a committee because they haven't had a meeting that they've recorded minutes for. And so here's the thing, it puzzles me how, I understand why they made the moratorium. I get it. It was all about making sure the planning commission gets their work done on 32, 26, and all that before. I get it. However, once planning commission had sent these things to the council, if they weren't ready for it, should have sent them back. I'm not aware that they have sent them back at all. And so I'm puzzled by where we are at this stage in the game. I'm not gonna make a big issue out of it because I think this is all conversation that is gonna need to be continued anyway, because 32, as far as I'm concerned, wasn't really finished yet because there's 6 parts of 32, 6 articles that are actually zoning. They have nothing to do with the subdivision. They're all about use, and they should be they should be a function of 38 and not 32. And so, and then there was a few other things in 32 that actually did have to do with subdivisions and the development regulations that needed to be addressed, but I knew the opportunity was going to arise to be able to bring those up later. Same thing with 26. A lot of discussion about roads on 26, especially private roads. Fact of the matter is, if council were to act on that, it would actually make it a public road. That's state law. If county council addresses and lays out what a private road has to, meet a certain standard, it automatically becomes public. So I really think that the planning commission needs to rethink that whole process and just eliminate private roads entirely from 26. And if anybody wants to, I'd have to go and look for it, but I can show you exactly where it is in state law that it says that. And Kyle and I have discussed that, and the roads director. And so anyway, those are just some things that need to be thought through. And I'm anxious for tomorrow night because I just really want to see what the committee meeting is going to deal with tomorrow night. Because like I said, they've yet to even really truly deal with 26 and 32. And y'all sent that, 4 months ago, something like that. And they haven't sent it back. Anyway, I think things are just kind of cockeyed. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Markovich. I've got a point of privilege.
Me.
Does anybody have a pen that works? Mine just died. Thank you.
Thank you.
4 times. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Jim Codner. I'm with Advocates for Quality Development. Last time I spoke, I was chastised for not giving out a written copy of what I was going to say, so that's what I'm trying to do tonight is give you something written that you can follow with. Advocates of Quality Development represents 5,000 individual and member neighborhood residents in Oconee County and Pickens County. This is to provide AQD input to your review of Chapter 38 zoning. Council has established a development moratorium to allow time to rewrite the ordinances that impact such efforts. This is an opportune time to provide them with effective tools to better deal with the growth of the county and the attendant development projects. As far as zoning goes, zoning is a widely used tool to regulate land usage and development efforts. Used properly, it can guide growth to areas that have compatible usage and sufficient infrastructure to avoid expensive shortfalls that result in strained utilities, traffic nightmares, and a mishmash of unrelated uses crammed together in one area. Zoning is inherently a political decision, and council is the only body with the power to zone per state law, following planning commission evaluation and extensive public input. Key to this process is the ability to identify to council what areas are appropriate to consider for zoning action. To this end, please consider the following pertaining to the proposed rewrite of Chapter 38. Do not restrict council's ability to initiate the process. They are probably in the best position to identify appropriate areas for development control. By South Carolina state law, they're the only county body that is authorized to enact zoning ordinances. Effectively eliminating this power would significantly limit their ability to deal with serious development pressures. Retain the planning district method. While cumbersome and time-consuming, it was successfully employed in the Fair Play Initiative. It combines a reasonable petition drive requirement with extensive public interaction to arrive at a comprehensive recommendation to council. And also, return the small area method to one using a reasonable petition drive for initiation. The current 100% requirement is so restrictive as to effectively eliminate this method as a viable option for all but the smallest areas. The original 50% requirement should be reinstated. It is important to recognize that these methods are just to initiate the process. Council can accept, reject, or modify the proposal based on extensive public input plus recommendations from planning staff and planning commission. It is by no means the final decision. As far as density is concerned, density is a key measure of a project's eventual over impact on the community. It has three definitions in the current ordinance. Density, plain old density, a generic houses per acre. Gross density is houses per total acreage of the project, and net density, houses per developable acre, which excludes the area needed for roads and right-of-ways. This results in maybe 10 or 15% fewer houses allowed in a given development. The issue is that the ordinance itself uses the generic density and likely is interpreted as gross density. AQD feels the more restrictive net density is more appropriate. We recommend words such as the term density shall mean net density unless otherwise specified. As far as the moratorium goes, to make best use of the opportunity afforded by the moratorium, it might be appropriate to consider issues beyond the rewrites of chapters 22, 28, and 38. Look at where growth is appropriate and where it might be problematic due to infrastructure constraints. Start by looking at the existing future land use map to see how well it meshes with existing utilities and roads. The detailed Sewer Commission report recently completed gives a detailed study of where growth is expected to occur and would be an excellent starting resource. If growth is projected to occur where it's not desirable due to infrastructure strains or by posing a threat to scenic, cultural, or agricultural interests, consider the value of an overlay, as Pickens County has done with Highway 11 overlay. Finally, consider a tree ordinance to deal with wanton clear cutting that can result in runoff, pollution, and erosion issues, and the loss of stately heritage trees. AQD has done some work in this regard, and if you're interested in pursuing the subject further. Thank you for the opportunity to input to the process and for your attention to these issues. Thank you for your service to the County and Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Parker.
Mr. Carter.
So we have two things in the backup material, one thing being definitions. And I think it's important that we understand those definitions and how they apply to the chapters we're discussing and how they apply to the issues we're seeing. I don't know if y'all had time to review those, if any of them stand out that y'all want to discuss further. I know everybody is, from my standpoint, is, I keep hearing the word subdivision, but it's not the subdivision of property. It's what happens after that property is divided and the major development happens. I mean, you can subdivide property and not affect the community if there's no major development happening on that property. That is just one thought that we need to keep in the back of our minds when we're writing through the ordinance to make sure we're using the correct verbiage and looking in the correct areas. Even though a subdivision is a process of development. Brent, you want to lead off with yours?
Well, I went through and just had some ideas about things that we need to talk about, and I don't think this is the place to be spitballing ideas. And that's kind of what we're doing. I think we really need to have a sit-down at a, what do you call it,
Workshop.
a workshop where we could really go through some of these things and iron them out. Because just to sit up here and throw out ideas, it's just like a waste of time as far as I'm concerned. All I did was I went through and picked out some areas that I think we need to start looking at and discussing how we're gonna do these, if we're gonna do these changes, ways of identifying.
I was gonna mention that, on the proposed schedule, there's workshops scheduled based on the conversation y'all had last week. Those are, or last month, rather, I'm sorry. Those are on that schedule. So as, quick as I can get that, review tomorrow night with the committee for the public meetings, I'll send those to you so you can look at dates for those workshops.
So those are coming.
So we can just reply to your email, say, yeah, that's a great day.
Those
No,
dates
that's-
work for me, and then we'll adjust the schedule accordingly.
Okay. Because as I was starting to review some of this stuff, I think there's some things that we didn't look at that we need to.
All right.
And one of them in development was we didn't even consider manufacturing or any of that. We didn't even consider any of that kind of stuff.
Like commercial development?
Yes. As in what's a major development, what's not a major, you know? How big do you, and I'm thinking at some point, we'll have triggers. You know, if it's so many square feet, then it'll have a trigger to it where they have to do certain things on their application, you know? It's just like in a subdivision, if it's like over 25 homes, then you have to do a traffic study. You have to do more of the in-depth stuff. Under it, you don't have to do as much. That's the way I'm looking at it. Any other ideas?
I'd like to make a motion to have, the Appalachian Council of Governments come in and give a presentation on priority investment zones.
Okay.
If we could reach out to them, because that would play right in line with, the direction we're trying to head in. So that is my motion for you to reach out to. Them and have them come in and give us some insight to that. I know this is something new.
Would it be acceptable to schedule that for, do you want that as part of a workshop, or do you want it as part of a scheduled meeting?
I think we'd probably have to work around their schedule, so we'd have to.
Essentially, yes, sir.
So, that is my motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
You gotta have discussion first.
All discussion? Sorry, thank you.
So is the suggestion then that it be part of a workshop that happens, is a discussion with them as to how that would work in, as opposed to them doing a presentation up here to us? Is that,
I think we've got to figure out what they've got available.
okay?
We're working on a shrinking timeline here. So it'll behoove us. There's a lot of good things in, I think that's applicable to us, dealing with, priority investment zones. Especially if you look under your definitions, I don't know if it's in these definitions or not, for, traditional neighborhoods.
With that list of workshops, how many, do you remember offhand, how many workshops you have tentatively planned?
That is one question that I am hoping I can squeeze in an extra one. It depends on if the committee is willing to schedule an additional meeting, that we could then give us an extra month. because otherwise the last, committee meeting is, I believe October the sixth, if I'm not mistaken. And so planning commission is the day before, and then they have their meeting, and they don't have another one for the rest of the year. So I'm gonna request that they have an additional one in November to buy us an extra month, because I feel like we're gonna be really.
Can't we have a workshop without them?
Yes, sir, but that's where we have to present to them to then get it has to go to them to then go to council, because we're supposed to present to them and then present to council is the way it was directed to me. So I'm asking if they, and I'm gonna clarify with them, if we don't have to go through them, then we'll get an extra one in. I think I have 6 scheduled, but I'm trying to get us an extra month, that's what I'm saying.
And as far as the structure of the workshop, do you have a vision as to what that looks like? Is that going to be a public input session? When we were doing the
No, sir.
comprehensive plan, for example, we had public input sessions that we then were able to take information away from that.
We'll have is projected to have 2 public information meetings that allow for public input. And because of the timeline that we're working with, those have to be kind of crammed into a tight window. And so that we can then take that information and start moving forward. I'm afraid if we wait too long, it's not gonna give enough time for everybody to work together to come up with what we need. So the workshops themselves would be more, they would not be open to the public. It would be a time to sit down and work through, and like Mr. Adams mentioned, spitball those ideas and work through them and flesh out what it really needs to look like. And then I feel like we need those workshops to then be able to develop the proper verbiage, to move forward. So I envision the workshops to be more what we were just saying, spitballing those ideas and working through them. And as we move forward, we hone in more of that, the verbiage that is used as we move forward.
And those workshops will be attended by whom?
Members of the commission, definitely, we need your involvement, obviously. I need your involvement. So that's why I was coming to y'all for approval of dates, and we'll have to work that out because we can't, for it to be private, we can't have a quorum.
Right.
So we need to discuss how we would address that. But it requires your input at this point.
Well, to move things along, I know we've got discussion on this, but I think that's something we need to look at is who do we want in what workshops, and what are the workshops that you're talking about?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's really a time to sit down and work through the
Yeah, but
items.
what are the topics of the workshop? I've requested one on the priority investment zones. I'm sure we're gonna have other workshops around.
This would be more roundtables working through each chapter. We would
Okay.
focus on certain items within each chapter that we need to work on, that were defined in the scope, and we'll handle those in each workshop. Because that way we can work through those ideas. Because if we come in and say we're gonna work on all 3, we would not be able to move forward. We get bogged down. So focus on certain areas and move forward
Right.
accordingly.
So the motion on the table right now is for us to reach out to Appalachian Council of Governments to come in, give us a presentation or a workshop on priority investment zones. And the good thing about those, it gives you an opportunity for traditional neighborhood designs and to pull back non-essential housing regulation requirements and other incentives when it comes to housing in areas where needed.
So are we gonna ask them, in that invitation, are we gonna ask them to come to whether the workshop with this kind of material of how and where they could be of assistance, or are we gonna let them say, this is what we think should be taking place in the county?
Well, I think we first need to all better understand what it is, and then hopefully then they can tell us how they can assist us to achieve the areas that we're interested in pursuing.
Shouldn't the Planning and Economic Development Committee doesn't that tie into a priority investment zone? Seems to me they ought to be part of the discussion, or maybe they can provide answers, or just going to ACOG, I'm not sure is the best way to go. Going to ACOG, I don't know if that's the best way to go, or certainly not the only way to go, but I'm looking at this Planning and Economic Development Committee thinking, certainly they'd be interested in a priority investment zone, or a part of it, or have an opinion about it, or something.
Well, ACOG, the reason I brought them in is because they were heavily involved in the Plan and Investment Act that was passed back in 2007, I think. So I'm sure that they have in-depth information on this, and I'll seek help wherever I can find it. I just know that ACOG's the one that was heavily involved in that.
Go ahead. The workshops, what kind of structure do you envision as far as how we're going to proceed through the chapters? I mean, are we going to jump around?
Well, that's what I was hoping to get to after we get this motion.
Okay, we
off the
can
table.
discuss that. I'll hold my question.
Well, and my only reason for wanting to hear that is I'm trying to, based on what I'm hearing staff saying, they're saying that we've got a limited amount of meetings that we can have, and we hope that we can add another one. Is where does this, if there's only so many meetings available, where does ACOG fit in? Is it the number one priority, or is it the number 8 priority, and we only have 6 meetings?
That's a very good input. So let me pull my motion, and let's discuss what we recommend to see in the workshops. So I'll retract my motion.
Let's discuss, what'd you say?
What we expect the structure of the workshops to be.
Back to your question.
When I was questioning the structure, I'm more as to how we're going to flow through the chapters. Are we going to start with chapter 22, where we've done a lot of work and we maybe just need to clean up to address the moratorium? And we can proceed through those a little bit more quickly, the first couple of chapters, and then get into the 38 where we haven't spent as much time. And we need to, it's probably going to take a little bit more time and energy to filter through it, and then have the presentations come in.
I was kind of hoping that we could divide and conquer. Some of us be involved in chapter 26, some of us in 32. That way we can focus in those areas. Landscape ordinance, I know Ms. Spicer had some information on that, which will be a help to us.
So what you're saying is basically we build the workshops in, which is what we were thinking, is certain areas in each workshop, and you're saying kind of designate certain members to address each one. That would enable us to have the meetings without having a quorum, because we would designate who's gonna be involved in one area. Obviously, there's gonna be some overlap, but then the overlap could be discussed in planning commission meetings, because we will still have those regularly scheduled meetings, so we can discuss the update of, and then, as each committee, well, I'm not gonna call them a committee, but as each workshop moves forward, then the information obtained from each one would go out to the whole commission, not just the 2 that may have been in that workshop. Whatever came from that would then be provided to all parties. Would that be acceptable?
I think that is a very good way to go about it. We just need to figure out what is the content of the workshops.
Can I ask a question? It was brought up that the sewer commission had given a report on, I guess, what's available and what's not available. The capacity thing,
I have reached out to ask for a copy of that.
because I think we need to know, as a planning commission, where stuff is gonna be available to plan, if we're gonna plan anything like that, because It doesn't do any good if you don't know.
I have started reaching out based on, the scope. Mr. Haney made a recommendation to add that as, to obtain that information, availability of water, sewer, et cetera. So I have reached out trying to start obtaining as much information as we can, and I'll provide that as I get it.
Okay,
Unfortunately, they don't move quite at the, when you're dealing with utility companies, they don't quite move at the speed we would like them to, so it may take a minute.
I do know when we, if we do decide to go down the road of priority investment zones, that one of the things it recommends is to bring them on board as advisors or partners in any discussions involving them, so we can get their input.
Involving priority investment zones, you mean?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more question. I'm still trying to get my brain around what that workshop scenarios, what those look like, and I understand that there'll be a couple of two people, I guess, from each different workshop from here. Who are the other participants in those workshops?
Typically, it would be myself and two of the members of council, of the commission that would be involved.
Okay.
And then we come back together as a group and present what was discussed and, the verbiage that was developed, and then that gets presented to the commission as a whole. Just because we've got so much to work through in such a short time.
Do you have an outline of what those workshops look like now?
Not yet, no, sir, I'm working on them now.
Okay. I say that I don't want us to overburden staff by us coming up with something to fill time here tonight. When we look at our scope and it says that our job is to review the draft materials, participate in the workshops, and offer recommendations, that it's staff's job right now to direct the phases of the project. And so we are running short on having few meetings. But I don't want us to talk ourselves into giving her more work when her assignment right now is to say, this is the scope of each workshop. And now we've laid something else on top of that. I think our next steps is that staff needs to come up with, this is the agenda of the workshops. And for us to then say, you forgot this, or we need to add that, or can we combine these two and add an extra space for somebody else? But I think that staff really is the next cart before the horse, or the horse before the cart.
I agree with that, and Mr. Johnson, unless there is something that we really want to dive into that we feel is pertinent to this whole revamping of these ordinances, and that's one reason why, I was wanting a presentation given on the priority investment zone. It's
Maybe we should have them come to us, and so then we can direct staff then to say, this needs to be added, whether you want to do it or not, you got to make time for this because the planning commission has said so.
if they can, and that's one of the things we're dealing with is time constraints right now. So it's, I think if we're going down this road, we should better understand all the tools in our toolbox.
Well, why don't you make a motion then to bring them in front of us to discuss how and where they might be able to help us, and then that way we can make a decision on whether we want to direct staff then to add that as a workshop, period.
So you're making a motion?
I was going to let you do it since you brought it up.
All right, I'll make a motion to have ACOG come before us and give us a brief overview of priority investment zones and how they could benefit Oconee County. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Now we're back into discussion.
I'm good with doing that. I don't want us to set up a workshop when it sounds like we've got limited space and time. I'd rather be here and see if we need to add it, or if we can just take that input and stick it into one of the workshops that already exists.
can I clarify? I'll reach out to them tomorrow and see how quickly I can get a response. And then, once I get some availability from them, if they're saying that the only time in the next near future is a daytime workshop, would y'all be okay with us somehow, or scheduling a called meeting that would allow everybody to be in one place at one time? Would y'all be open to that, adding that in, if that's how we have to get them here quickly? Because obviously we've got to work with their schedules as well.
I would, and I'm not opposed to adding a meeting back in to that monthly meeting scenario for planning.
Is everybody, okay, so I'm gonna see what their availability is, and then I will reach out to y'all accordingly. This is what we can do, and then, based on your responses, then we'll move forward from there. Is that acceptable? Okay.
So what? Are we
So
through
we've
with
had discussion, I'm sorry?
Are we through with discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
Can I ask staff, when do you think you would have a workshop agendas or workshop priorities as categories put together?
My intent is to have them done by the end of the week.
Do we need to have when you put those together, I'm assuming based on your expertise that those are needed meetings no matter what we say, based on the scope and priorities that you say needs to take place.
I would say those are items that need to be addressed, is what I'm gonna put on those, the workshop agendas. I am open to your suggestions on, if you feel, I would appreciate your suggestions if you feel something is missing, or et cetera. I think that's important to have that feedback.
What I'm wondering is if we should be having a meeting that, the agenda of our next meeting is to see that document, see the agendas of the separate workshops, and one, make sure that they fit the categories that we also feel like need to be set, and then two, for us to start putting assignments as to who's sitting in what seat when for those workshops. That would be our next agenda meeting. And whether we do that at the August or whether we do that at a second July meeting, I think that that's our next priority. I don't think we can make that call tonight. And I'm not sure that we should, again, be adding stuff to the plate that may or may not already be solved when you present that at the end of the week. When you finish it at the end of the week.
I was gonna suggest, do we need to have another meeting like the 20th? I don't even know if it's available.
I will have to check with,
The 20th?
Of July.
Is that the Monday?
That's 2 weeks. We're running out of time, and if we don't,
Yes, we are.
you know, and then we just keep talking about what we're gonna do, we're not doing it. We need to start doing it, you know? And we can't afford to wait till we're gonna run out of time. It ain't gonna work.
Yep. That's my biggest fear.
based on what I'm seeing, July 20th is available. I would have to confirm that with, council secretary to make sure, because she keeps the schedule. So I'll have to see if that's available.
Do we need to vote that if available, we'll do it?
I think so.
Do we need to I'll make a motion that we meet again on the 20th,
All right, Mr. Adams.
if available.
Motion to meet on the 20th.
I'll second.
With the expectation that staff would have time to put the workshop priorities together content-wise of what those workshops would look like, a basic content.
So I would ask that at that meeting, if we're gonna do that on the 20th, that the intent be, it establishes who's gonna be involved in which workshop when we leave that night, all of that is ironed out. So that moving forward, everybody knows and can start focusing on what and be prepared when we come together on this.
Absolutely.
Because we'll have lots to, I feel like, to be the most efficient we can be, I think that would be helpful for me.
Yep, so if we could know time, plan of action for each workshop, what the content is around that workshop, what chapter it deals with, et cetera, et cetera. And so that we can then confirm dates, confirm who's attending, and then at that point, see, okay, but you forgot something in here, where's that gonna go, kind of thing.
We also need to schedule a deliverables date, because we want to review what comes out of the workshop in case we need to send something back ahead of time, and we're knocking on the door of August.
That is why I'm asking for another, how the committee wants, Planning and Economic Development Committee, if we've got to go before them, or are we just presenting to council? Because if we're presenting to council, that gives us through November. If we have to go back to committee first and then to council, that's October. That gives very little time for a overall review. It's gonna really be rushed. So that's why I wanna ask tomorrow to clarify that, how they want to proceed. And if it does have to go before them, I'm gonna ask if they would, meet an additional time in November to give us that. I don't think it gives commission adequate time to review if we have to have it done by October.
I would strongly encourage us to ask them, since the moratorium time was put as a directive from them, we still need to be able to accomplish those tasks. And if it's a subcommittee that they've got, then I think that there needs to be some accommodation on that part, hopefully.
So I will ask for that in support of, I'm assuming y'all support that question tomorrow, to ask for that additional one.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Unanimous. Any other discussion items?
No, I think we're ready to adjourn.
Sounds
Make a
good.
motion to adjourn.
So move.
So moved.
Adjourn.